your birthday today. You are strong-minded, willful, sensitive, caring, and passionate about whatever you do. You are sophisticated and classy.
Very good.
But along the lines of another great entrepreneur, the pilot,
Richard Branson.
No, well, there was
Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes, exactly.
You want to get any money for that?
This one. His entrepreneurial skill ran out when those that looked after him kept him in the dark and fed him
Talk out, guys!
And we think that there's a slight parallel in that area as well. But on a more serious note, congratulations, Dad. Thank you. And thank you very much for all of you.
Just before we're going to ask George's brother John to say a few words, but I would like to say it's a real joy to us both to have so many friends and family here. It really is a delight, an absolute delight, and we're just sorry that our Philip hasn't joined us. He's with us in spirit, and I've got the rest of my lovely family here, and our great-grandson, wherever he is, out there asleep somewhere, and lots of nieces and nephews, and grandchildren. Yeah, and grandchildren too. Thank you, and we'll ask John if he wouldn't mind coming up here. And then we'll get George to cut his cake, if that's all right.
You might be allowed to say
you could do it, John.
Well, we'll hit the fire brigade shortly, yeah.
Of course.
I have to go over there. Oh, God, that makes it worse.
That'll be fine. Come around here, John. Standing here,
brother. He's not hitting me if I say something. It's a great pleasure, of course, to be able to say something on behalf of George. Not many people have done that over the years, but as an older brother, I always watched him and said, well, yeah, maybe I'd like to emulate what he's doing, and maybe I wouldn't. But for the first probably 14 years of George's life, I can only run on anecdotal evidence, and that related probably to things like George being a participant with the workers of the gasworks in Westport, so he was known as Georgie Gasworks Martin, which distinguished him from the other George Martins who were in his lineage. George Walter Martin was his grandfather and George was his father, but there weren't too many Georgie Gasworks Martins, and he's it. And in the course of his education at the gasworks, he was apparently given money by Tom Menzies, whom I didn't know, for every swear word he could produce. His repertoire is endless. Because he had in the back of his mind an enterprising kink. And that enterprise led to something further which I do remember, because I was then possibly between 5 and 7, active, agile and talkative. And my brother was then going to probably secondary school, and the family kept a cow called Rosie. And Rosie was milked on the various empty sections in this area, Francis Street to possibly Nosworthy Street, maybe Stevenson Street, I don't remember. But George and Dad shared the milking, and George was poorly paid for this activity, so he decided there must be an end result. And literally and metaphorically there was. He decided that the manure that the cow produced could aid the impoverished people who'd just settled into state housing at the top of Scott Street. But he didn't know, because he was busy at school, how he could get the marketing done. And the production side wasn't too bad, somewhat, but marketing was a difficulty. So he thought, well, my son, I don't have to pay him, my brother, I don't have to pay him anything, and he's a bloody nuisance around the place, so if I give him a job, he might solicit some orders. So I had a scooter on this push through. And away I went, and I scooted all over the district, and I got orders, which George duly delivered, either the next day or subsequently at some stage, to the delight of the local residents, because they had impoverished soil, it needed fertilising, cow manure was a good start. But I must have had a bit of a sales kick because I got more orders than he could supply. So there was a bit of a problem. So then we decided that Rosie could probably produce more manure than she was actually doing naturally if she was giving some incentive. And the incentive happened to be something called magnesium sulfate, Epsom salt. Now, the difficulty with that was the natural discharge of the manure meant that it came out in a string rather than a pat.
Yes, exactly.
So collecting it was difficult. So we got round that by freezing the orders, literally and metaphorically, for winter supply, so that the slab of manure could be picked up rather than the pat. And thereafter we satisfied all orders until, on one exuberant occasion, I saw a whole host of people attending a meeting held, a morning tea meeting held by the Lady Mary's. I thought, wow, I can sell to all of those people all at one hit. This would be great. So I scooted up the drive and asked in a loud voice if Mrs. Bull, the Lady Mary's, would like to buy some cow manure. Our father got a phone call and the business was closed down. That was an example of enterprise. Beyond that, George showed great tenacity and a great spirit of work ethic. The tenacity was in flying aircraft, which he started, I think, George, you probably have to correct me, but I thought it was about 1946 when he used to pedal his way out to the Auckland Aeroflot. And eventually succeeded quite readily in getting his license to fly solo. And beyond that, skipping forward a few more years, he became very interested in gliding. And I used to occasionally peek at his logbook, and it had this repetitious thing in it: the 10th Silver Sea, the 10th Silver Sea, and it went on and on. It was never completed Silver Sea, and I thought he must have a girl called Silver Sea. But in actual fact, I think he did get to Silver Sea.
It might be a different logbook.
And thereafter, the rest of his life was devoted to hard work. Some of which was successful and some of which was regrettably unsuccessful, but through it all he persevered, which was his tenacity. And on a couple of occasions he had a bit of a problem in distinguishing between headstones and milestones. Fortunately the milestones won out because his ill health at that time was pretty marginal. So congratulations, George, on making the journey, and it's a delight to say something on your behalf. Thank you very much.
Before you
Blow them out.
Okay.